I haven't said anything yet, so I haven't deserved the applause yet. All right, here we go. I love talking at conferences. I love coming to conferences, but there is one problem. They kind of depress me. Because I see all these people get up on stage and talk about how wonderful they are, how great they are, all these successes. And I think to myself, well, I'm going to talk about failure. Great. And secondly, I feel like there's more failures than successes. But I feel that it's more important to talk about failure because I think we can learn a lot more from failures than from successes. So I'm going to talk about probably one of the biggest failures in my career, in my life. So let's start off with a couple of very quick words about who I am. Oh, by the way, there is definitely going to be space at the end for questions. I'm going to try and compress this talk so that there's time for you to ask questions. So already start thinking about them because I want to have some interaction. Hopefully you will ask some questions. Who am I? Bob the Builder. Kind of jokingly, I feel that that's what I've been doing all of my career, building teams, building organizations has been my thing. Started off with the Scouts. I built a scout troop. I was a troop leader. Took my scout troop to a world jamboree where we got a title of best scout troop in the world. And basically that's always been my thing. These are some of the logos. It's already been mentioned, some of the places that I've been at. I built EPAM from scratch. I was the very first employee of EPAM here in Poland. Now I think there's 6,000 people in that my little baby now. I built big chunks of IBM here in Poland, Solid, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the bigger logos that you probably recognize, where I've built teams and some of these organizations. In between, there are smaller things, startups also. So building teams is my thing. It's kind of my expertise. It's what I do. But today, and I'm a techie at heart. I have a computer science degree. I like technology, and that's why I'm here talking to you about at a tech conference. But today I'm going to talk about something a little bit different. These two logos, which are the biggest logos on the screen, bigger than the other ones, because my remuneration in those has a lot more zeros than all those previous logos. Unfortunately, there isn't a one at the beginning. It's just zeros. But they're very, very important. I'm a former American football player, yes, with the helmets and the pads and all of that stuff. I played the game. I reached quite a high level. I played internationally, and I was discovered. And thanks to that sport, I got a sports scholarship, and I went to America, and I did my MBA in America, and I got an opportunity to teach Americans their own sport, which was really, really cool. But when I came back to Poland, I decided that because the sport gave me so much, I want to give something back, and I started coaching a team here in Kraków called the Kraków Football Kings. First, I coached a senior team, the adults, won a championship with them, and then I started coaching the youth team, with which we won a national championship. And now I'm on to my next endeavor, which is Tarnów Hunters, where we're going to be building a junior team there. We're just starting that up now. But this is what I'm going to be talking about today, the Kraków Kings and my adventure with them. It's a real team. This is what my scrum team looks like. Okay. Yes, very diverse, all the way from a guy that's 140 kilograms on a very, very slim day, all the way to a guy that's probably 60 kilograms wet. They play on the same team. And just like we have in technology, just when we have mixed teams, especially in Scrum, all these guys play on the same team. And that's an incredibly cool thing because you get such incredible diversity, not just of bodies, but of their approaches, their training styles, but also of their responsibilities on the field, because they're all incredibly important for a championship. So what am I going to talk about today? Well, I'm going to tell you how this all started and how it ended up in a huge failure. Kraków Kings is a combination of two teams. It's a merger of two teams that were in Kraków previously. One was called the Tigers, the other one was called the Knights. And I call them Facebook teams. Okay, neither of the teams had won anything, and most of the guys that were on those teams were there to basically take a picture, put it on Facebook, and say, "Oh, check out the exotic sport that I'm doing." So that's why I call them Facebook players. That's not me. That's not why I played the game. That's not why I coached the game. I want to win championships, and I want to become the best. And when the two teams merged and became the Kings, they called me and said, "Can you become our coach?" I said, "Why?" I said, "Because we want to win." "Do you?" "Okay, it's easy to say. but do you? I said, okay, no problem. I'll become your coach on one condition. We'll do some tests to check that you're physically ready. And as long as 90% of the players, okay, fine, 80% of the players pass the test, then I'll become your coach. And essentially they had to run 880 yards on a field. So 8 times on a field back and forth, which is the equivalent of about 800 meters, but not on a track, on a field, and that's quite important. So we agreed on a date. They said they were going to get ready. Cool, I came in, we did the tests. About 50% of the players passed. So I started walking out. And as I'm walking out, I hear somebody saying, "Where's he going?" And the other guy said, "I told you he was serious." So yeah, I walked out and said, "I'm not going to be your coach." They found another coach, and in their first year, they had a mediocre season. They didn't really win anything. So next year, they called me and said, "Can you become our coach?" I said, "Same rules." I said, "Okay, we'll get ready." So I came in, and we did the tests, and this time, 95% of the players passed. They made it within the allotted time, which was 3 minutes. I'm like, okay, awesome. Now here's the very important moment that's key to this whole story. I stood in front of them and I said, if you do everything exactly the way I tell you, and exactly the way I tell you, and your only response is, yes, coach, I will bring you a championship in 3 years. What's your response? What do you think they said? Yes, coach. I said, right, let's get going. Let's start working, okay? So we started working 2 years. Took 2 years, and in our second year, we won a championship. So a real picture from the final, you see, there's the trophy. The guys are real proud, okay? So we got the championship. But I'm not here to talk about success, right? I told you, I'm going to be talking about failure. So let's look at the league table the year after the championship. And you're probably looking from the top, and you're looking for the Krakow Kings. Keep looking, keep looking, keep looking. All the way down here at the bottom. Krakow Kings, 3 wins, 5 losses. The only team that's worse than us is Titania Lublin. Guess who we beat twice in that season? Yeah, Titania Lublin, okay? So really, we only won 1 game. What happened? We had a championship team. Why did we fail so badly the year after? Quite often it's called the championship hang-up, okay, or the championship hangover. Didn't think that was going to happen to me, the great coach, right? This is what the season felt like, okay? You can feel from this picture that it was just heavy. It was really bad. The entire season was like this. It was a real struggle. Now, the weird thing was, nothing really changed from the previous year as far as the players that I had and the opposition. The teams that we were playing were pretty much the same. I understand that every time you go and play against a championship team, you raise your level a little bit more because you're playing the champion team, but not so much that we lose that many games. My players were the same. They knew what it took to win a championship. So why did we fail so badly? At the end of the year, I did the standard thing. I did an anonymous survey, sent it to all of my players, all 50 of my players, and saying, look, fill in the survey. What was the season like? How did it go? What your coaches are like, and so on and so forth. And they did. They filled in that survey. Oh boy, the most painful thing I have read in my life. Now, the previous year, I did the same survey. Oh, what a beautiful survey. I sent the results to my mum. I said, oh, check out what a great coach I am. Oh, some beautiful things they wrote about me. After this, that survey was different. It was the most painful things I have read in my life. To this day, it hurts when I think about the feeling that I had when I was reading this. Just complete anger and blame on me. They were blaming me that they had a tragic season. So at first, I looked at this and went, WTF, what? I wasn't on the field, you were on the field. Take some responsibility, Then I started reading and started thinking. And first of all, the first positive that I read from this is they're angry, they hate losing. Great. They're no longer a Facebook team. So that's awesome. So we have one success. They want to win, they're angry, they're blaming me. But why are they blaming me? Why aren't they taking responsibility? Well, there's a very simple reason why they're not taking responsibility. Because I told them all they had to do is listen to me. And as long as they do what I tell them, there will be a championship. So they did what I told them. The difference was that now, after the championship, I was not enough. I got them to a level that I was capable of getting them to, but to go higher, we needed more. Getting 55 players to go even more forward was too much for me to do on my own. I needed help. I needed them to take ownership. They didn't take ownership in this journey because I didn't let them. I can't blame them. They were expecting me to do this, and I just couldn't do it. This is one of the most painful pictures that I have. That reminds me of, basically, of this failure. When you look at this, this is a picture of the 4 captains walking onto the field before the game for the coin toss. It's a traditional thing before every single game. The 4 captains, your 4 leaders, the four most important people walk onto the field for the coin toss. Awesome picture, right? These 4 men holding hands, team, unity, walking onto the field together. The reason why it's a painful picture for me is because I realized that this was the only responsibility that my 4 captains had. The only thing that they had to do as captains was go out for the coin toss. They had no other responsibilities. What is the point of having 4 captains if they don't captain, if they don't lead your team and move it forward? I didn't need these 4 guys in the first 2 seasons because it was about me leading the team forward and getting them to a particular place, and that was a plan. It was an authoritarian style. I knew this. I consciously chose that style because, frankly, there was no point in having a democratic leadership style because the guys didn't know what it took to win a championship, so I had to show them. It's kind of like if you have a team of juniors that come straight out of university. They don't yet know how to work. Imagine if you took a bunch of juniors straight from university and told them to work in a scrum team where they get to organize their own time. Might be a bit of a problem, okay? So that's why this picture is so painful for me. So when I started looking at the situation, I realized I need to change the leadership style. I need to back off a little bit. I need to create space for the guys to take ownership to move the team forward. So that's what I did. I swallowed the pain of the survey, which really hurt me, and I realized, no, I'm not going to walk away from this, even though they're blaming me for this. I'm going to fix this. So I stood in front of the guys and said, right, we're going to do things differently this year. Yes, you're right, my fault. This season we screwed up because I led this wrong. We're going to do things differently next year. We're going to do things in a more democratic way. You guys are going to take responsibility for moving this team forward because that is the only way to do this. Okay? Each of you is going to take responsibility so that we move forward. I took my captains and I did a leadership course with them, and I told them what it is to be a captain, what it is to be a leader, what kind of things they need to do for the team to move us forward. I actually selected a few more guys from the team that I felt that they were potential leaders. I did a leadership sort of workshop for them so they understood what kind of things they should be doing within the team to move us forward. And then we move to the greatest picture, and I'll tell you this story in a second, what this picture represents. But essentially what happened is the guys started taking ownership because I let them. They started grabbing and they started moving the team forward themselves. We started discussing how we want to practice. We started discussing how we want to change things. But more importantly, they felt that it was their team and they had to move the team forward. There was ownership. One of the cool things that happened is, I remember I created a spreadsheet in Google Docs where I listed all the players and then all the gyms that are in Krakow. And I said, guys, just put in which gym you're going to, at roughly what time, so that the coaches, because I had 6 coaches that were on the staff with me, they can pop into the gym and help you with technique. It's not about monitoring you, but just pop in and help you with the technique of how to do exercise and so on. So an incredible thing happened. Suddenly, the guy started saying, hey, why aren't you going to the gym? Hey, I don't see your name on a spreadsheet. Hey, why are you missing working out? They started doing it themselves. They started pushing each other forward. Before, I had to do this. I had to monitor 50 players to make sure that they were going to the gym and working out. Now suddenly they started doing it themselves. A challenge from your peer, from your captain, as to why you're not going to the team is different than one from the coach. Suddenly, you can't make excuses to your peer. That's completely different. They created a Facebook group called You Are My Motivation, which is really, and they started putting in things in there that motivated them from their perspective, from their point of view, the things that they needed. For example, they started putting in recipes for food. How many times can you eat a grilled chicken with rice, boiled rice? It gets a little bit boring. Suddenly they had ideas of different meals, different things that they could still eat healthy, but for it to be tasty, and they were sharing these ideas and moving forward and owning the team. And then to this picture. This is my proudest picture because the guy in the picture here without the helmet, his name is Dawid. His position was wide receiver, so his job was to catch the ball. Incredibly talented guy, very quick, very nimble, made incredible catches in practice. The problem with Dawid was, if he dropped the first ball in a game, forget about it. Mentally, he was gone. He wouldn't catch any more balls in that game. You sit him down on the bench, there's no point in him staying in the game. One of my best players, but mentally there's something wasn't there if he wasn't a success right from the beginning. So me, the great, fabulous championship coach, I tried everything. I tried hugging him. I tried shouting at him. I tried supporting him. Just everything I could. Somehow I couldn't get through to him. And then the other guy in the picture came to me. He's one of the leaders and said, "Coach, can I talk to Dawid before the game?" I said, "Absolutely, do whatever you want." This is, them two, and this became a kind of a ritual before every game that they talked. That first game, he took him to the side. He took him to the practice field, which we had on the side. He threw him in one ball, threw him another ball, threw him another ball. Dawid called him and he said to him, now I don't know exactly what he said to him because it was just the two of them, but from what I heard, he said to him, "Dude, you catched him here, you can catch him over there. I believe in you. I believe in you." His peer, his leader, his captain said to him, "I believe in you." Suddenly, Dawid had the best game of his life. From that point onwards, it made no difference. Dawid could have dropped the first 3 balls in the game. In the critical moment, the most difficult, pressured, we knew that he would catch the critical ball because his peers believed in him, okay? That is the power of me stepping back and letting the guys move the team forward and taking ownership, okay? The result was pretty simple. With the same team, with the same players, we jumped right back into the championship. From here to here, back to there. Nothing else changed. None of the players changed. We didn't suddenly import a whole bunch of players. Just simply took ownership in the team. The players took ownership. That's the lesson we need to, and why I'm here telling you about this. Every single time you need to make a conscious decision how you're running your team. Being an authoritarian leader isn't bad. I know most of us move away from it and say, "No, it's terrible, I can't tell people what to do, I can't take charge, I can't make all the decisions." Sometimes you need to. Sometimes you need to do that to set a culture so that the guys know, so that your team knows how we're going to be working, what is the culture. And then when that culture is there, you need to step back to let them own. It's one of the biggest things. Ownership is always bigger. It's not do this for Wednesday, it's for when can you do this? It's a completely different conversation. Because then if that thing is not done for Wednesday, you sit down and say, "What happened? You committed to this. It's your thing." When somebody owns something, it's a completely different thing. They will deliver. If they own it, when it's theirs, they will do a much, much higher level, okay? They will get to a much higher level. The other lesson from this that I'd really like you to remember is don't ever presume that just because you won a championship, you're going to win another one doing the same things. It doesn't work that way. Just because the project worked, just because you delivered on time, just because you delivered in a fabulous way, if you do the next project exactly the same way, it doesn't mean you're going to be a success. I am now almost paranoid. Every single time I have any kind of success, I analyze. I need to understand, why was this a success? What kind of things do I need to replicate? What kind of things do I need to stop doing? What kind of things I need to start doing? Heard of those 3 things? It's called a retrospective. Okay? We do this in every single sprint, after every single sprint. It's an important thing to do all the time in your leadership journey. Every time you finish something, every time you've delivered something, you look and understand why you did this with a success, so that you consciously choose which things you need to replicate. Okay? This isn't a one-off. I won a championship with the junior team. And now, with the paranoia, with not doing the same thing, I analyze what did I do with the youth team to win a championship? Which things do I need to replicate? Which things do I need to stop doing? With that conscious attitude in mind, I went to the next season, and we didn't win the championship, but we got a bronze medal. And in fact, when I looked at the team, that's a lot more than we should have won, because the team overachieved. And why did they overachieve? Because they owned. The other teams really weren't much better than us, okay? But each player owned it, and they played above their level because they owned the team. They understood what it meant to own. That's another thing, a mistake that we make, is very often companies tell us about our values, and ownership is one of the values. But do they explain to us what that means? I no longer, at the end of practice, when we're doing sprints, if one of the players doesn't quite do the sprint really well, I no longer go up to them and say, that sprint wasn't good, do that better. Because what happens at the very next sprint? He lines up, and he looks at the coach. As he's doing the sprint, he looks at the coach. Is the coach looking at me? I go up to the player and say, are you proud of that? Are you proud of that sprint? And the answer is no. Well, do it so that you're proud of it. For you. What happens on the very next sprint? He's there. He's not looking at me, because it's irrelevant whether I'm looking at him or not, because he's no longer doing it for me, he's doing it for himself. He's making sure that it's the best that he's ever done. We replicate the same thing at work. Is this bit of code something that you want to put your name to? Is this proposal something you really want to put your name to? Is this particular thing something you want to put your name to? Are you proud of this? Be proud of everything that you do, because it represents you. When we take that kind of ownership, even in the small things, we move forward. And then you can say, the score takes care of itself. And it's my mantra that I always say, don't worry about the score. As long as each of us does what we have to do, the score will take care of itself. Same thing in business. I remember when I was CEO of a company, everybody was worried about the financial result, how are we going to make money? I said, don't worry about it. That's my headache. You just do your job. If you do what you do to the best of your ability, okay, and if you're proud of that, I guarantee you will make money as a company. Okay? We will hit all of our things. And all my job is just to simply make sure everybody's doing the right thing. Whether it's the CEO, whether it's the team lead, same thing for all of us. Okay? Put people in a position of success, make sure they own it. If they're not ready to own it yet, then you drive them, show them that culture, and then you will be a success. Okay? That's it. That's simple. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. Now the most exciting part, I hope, is some questions. As difficult as easy, let's go.
Hi. First of all, I would like to thank you, because this was very, very inspiring. My question is, because of course the transition from the team that listened to you 100% to a team that has ownership, it's definitely a long road. It doesn't happen from one day to another. And my question is, to someone who is at this stage where they have like full control of the team and they want to give them more ownership and to inspire this within them, what would you say are like first steps, some advice, what they could do, some exercises that they could do to inspire the team?
Sure. First of all, you need to be authentic. If you say you're going to do something, you really truly need to do it. Okay? I quite often say that it's easier for me to be an authoritarian leader in sports. I kind of like it. In business, I'm completely different. I had to be really conscious to say, look, I promised we were going to be discussing, and I promised I was going to listen. I really need to do it, okay? And that was, at the beginning, that was the most difficult thing. Even though some of the ideas seemed, no, that's not going to work, you can't say, really? No, that's a stupid idea. That's it. That person's never going to come to you again. Great idea. Thanks for your feedback. Cool. Let's analyze it. The other thing you need to do is you need to actively show that it's different. Saying is not enough. One big difference that I changed is I didn't raise my voice at the players anymore. I said to them, I'm not going to shout at you anymore, I'm going to support you. If that's all I said, and I stopped shouting at them, and I never said that again, they would have never noticed, all right? Because you don't really notice something that's disappeared. So I had to look actively for situations where I could show them, look, I'm no longer shouting, I'm now supporting you. So what I did is, one of the times when one of the players did something wrong, And this was a time when I usually would have gone in and ripped into him so everybody would know. I would go, right, here we go. Hey, listen, what you did was really, really awesome. We need to change things a little bit, okay? But I love what you're doing. Yeah, that's awesome. Keep going.
Appreciate that.
And I started walking away, and I knew, I could feel all the players looking at me, because as I made that beeline for the play, everybody's like, oh, here we go again. And when they saw that that's not happening, they suddenly went, whoa, actually there is a difference. He's no longer shouting. When they saw it once, they saw it a second time, they realized there is that change. You need to find ways to show people that now it's different, actively, so that they say, oh, this really is, there is substance behind the words. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other question? It has to be super quick.
Oh, damn, we run out of time.
So, top 3 qualities when you search for a leader for your team, what you're looking for, the qualities of these people.
Quality of a leader. Oh
Yeah.
my God, it's irrelevant what I think. It's what you think, right? It's the people. It's whatever people need. But I think the most important things is the most difficult thing is empathy. Incredibly difficult. Having empathy, understanding what your players are going through, what your team members are going through. Like to say, walking a mile in the shoes of your people. A real example of that was during COVID. I saw all these great leaders and CEO of companies saying, we've done a wonderful job during COVID. So you didn't do a wonderful job. Your people did a wonderful job. You live in these beautiful apartments of 300 square meters, and you have multiple places where you can do a meeting. Your people sat in the kitchen, at the kitchen table, with 3 kids running around in 35 square meters doing work. They did the real work, but they didn't have the empathy to understand, because they didn't have to do it. So empathy is probably the most important thing for a leader, to understand what are the people going through, so that you can try and talk to them in the appropriate way, because suddenly you might realize, and that's one big difference, I'll be really quick, big difference that I realized with my players. Not every single player on my team was there to win. Some guys weren't part of the team to win. Winning, they didn't care about. They, for example, wanted to be part of a team and have friends in their team and be recognized by their team members. So suddenly when I went up to that player, and if I said to him, do this drill really well because we're going to win, he didn't care. But do this drill really well, and all the guys on the team are going to recognize you and pull you even more. Suddenly he was like, yeah, because that's what's important to me. So recognizing what's important to your guys, but the only way to do that is to speak to them, to talk to them, and build personal relationships. So have empathy and build personal relationships, 2 most important qualities of a leader. I'm sorry, we've run out of time. My fault, I should have shown that even more. If you want to grab me, ask more questions, please grab me anywhere around. Find me on LinkedIn, Dawid Ostrega, and I'll answer any questions that you have. Thank you very much for your time.